Good morning, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us today. This is, I think we're on number 12, right?
I don't know.
Or
We're getting
15? We're
there.
getting close, yep. Of our series for this year, 2022, Secrets of Successful Retirement. And today's topic is, will people under 60 retire? My name is Tara Kendrick, and I'm here with Bill Witt, the author of Secrets of Successful Retirement. And our company, Senior Resource Center, helps in four different ways. And they kind of all work together to make one complete retirement plan. We do comprehensive retirement planning, and that's looking out 30 years to make sure that you don't outlive your money, and trying to find ways to help people in retirement create more guaranteed income. And that's real important for us. We do tax planning, just finding ways to help people pay less tax, but we don't do tax prep. We do a lot of long-term care planning, including insurance products, as well as helping people qualify and preserve money to get federal and state programs like Medicaid and VA. And then lastly, estate planning. So we're not estate attorneys. We do have a partner who is our state attorney, but what we look at is what legal documents do you have now or that you need to have your wishes met as you're alive and then when you die. All right, so if you missed any of our previous webinars, you can always go back on our website, srctexas.com, and click on resources. And under the resources tab, we have our previous recordings. So if you look at this list, these are ones that we've done this past year since early February. And today we'll be doing Will People Under 60 Retire? And then next week we'll have our elder law attorney as a guest speaker talking about how to avoid probate. All right. And with that said, I'm going to pass it on to Bill.
Thanks, Tara. Hey, welcome, everybody. Glad you joined us. Quick disclaimer, everyone's situation is unique. We'll go over some case studies today, and obviously the performance historically is no guarantee of a future performance. And we always tell people we are not securities licensed. I used to have a securities license in the past life, but today we are not securities licensed. So if you have questions about stocks, bonds, mutual funds, you want to refer those to a licensed professional. Now, this question, will people under 60 be able to retire? That's kind of a bold question. I mean, why wouldn't they be able to retire? And what I would like to talk about today it's kind of like a 4-act play. There's 4 factors that are playing against or working against younger people that are gearing up for retirement. So if you know somebody that's in their 40s, 50s, that's heading towards retirement, have them listen into a recorded version of this webinar, because we're going to talk about some of the extra challenges that younger people face. And they fall into 4 categories: Social Security and Medicare solvency. We're going to talk a little bit about the Secure Act, something the government did a couple of years ago, and how it impacts younger folks. We're going to talk about 401k and IRA-based planning, kind of where it is at today. And then finally, we're going to talk about rising tax rates. So there's kind of 4 headwinds that I'd like to cover. And the first one is just the question of, will Social Security and Medicare be there for you? I'm 73. I'm on Social Security, love getting that monthly check, and I'm on Medicare. And not a lot of good reasons to get older in this country, but turning 65, most people become eligible for Medicare benefits. And as of today, it's very comprehensive health care. And I have freedom of choice. I can go to pretty much any doctor, any lab, any hospital that I want to go to. So what are the challenges facing these programs? Well, Social Security, you've probably heard in the news that it's underfunded. Back in the 1980s, President Reagan took the first step to try to shore up the solvency of Social Security. He allowed up to half of our benefit to be taxable. And President Clinton upped that to 85% in, I think it was 1993. But even with those 2 enhancements to the solvency of Social Security, the program is still grossly underfunded. And if lawmakers can't get their act together, sometime around 2030, 2031, benefits could be cut. Now, I'm a firm believer that they will figure this out and they will resolve it and come up with some solutions so that it maintains the benefits it offers. But we live in a gridlocked world, uh, very partisan, where we've got two sides to the house. So we've got Democrats and Republicans, and they don't seem to agree on much. And getting this type of legislation through to maintain these programs is a challenge, and they're going to have to work on that. Medicare premiums are also rising. This last year, we saw the premiums go up for the 140s up to $170 for Medicare B. That's every month. Higher income people pay even more. And what this really says is our entitlement programs that we take for granted are under assault. And so while we want to maximize these benefits, we have to plan as if maybe they don't exist. The second act of this played out during the President Trump's administration. He passed an act called the Secure Act. He signed it into law. And the Secure Act had many positive features, but it had one very detrimental feature for younger people. Up until the time the Secure Act passed, if your mom or dad passed away in your 40s, 50s, 60s, you could inherit their IRA, and you had a choice. You could take the money and run, and you'd pay tax up front. But if you didn't need the money, you could allow it to continue to compound and grow. And you had to take very small required distributions, but you could stretch the money over your lifetime. And obviously, the money that you don't take out is allowed to compound and grow. And that was literally the way a lot of people planned their retirement. Those that didn't save enough, fortunately, maybe had parents that did, and they passed on a nice inheritance, and the kids got it. And mom and dad's IRA became the son or daughter's retirement plan as well. But under the Secure Act, all inherited IRA funds for kids, if you're inheriting from your parents, they have to be withdrawn within 10 years. Well, this takes away lifetime stretch, which lets you use it as a bridge throughout your retirement. It does something else. It means if your mom or dad are 75 or 80 and pass away, you might well be in your 50s or 60s, and all of the benefits, you may be in your peak earning years, and on top of that, you're forced to take out the money out of mom or dad's IRA or 401k. And who's the winner in this? It's Uncle Sam. He's gathering a lot more tax dollars. So this was the first governmental act targeting retirement plans. And the second one is still unfolding. It hasn't completely been exposed to the American public yet. But most retirement planning today is focused on building up a pre-tax IRA or 401k. We find most of the folks that come to see us for retirement planning have two major assets. Hopefully it's their home, and we've seen home values skyrocket in Central Texas. But in addition, they usually come in with a 401k, 403b, 457 plan, or IRA. And those funds have to get them through retirement. If you go back 50, 60, 70 years in this country, most people retiring from a job had a pension that paid out as long as they were alive. But pensions started disappearing around 1980, and today they've been replaced essentially by 401k pre-tax accounts that you fund while you're working, and hopefully your employer's making a contribution as well. And then when you retire, today you have to start taking these required distributions when you turn 72. Well, the second act, legal act after the Secure Act, is what President Biden is working on in the background. If you've heard about this Build Back Better plan, which has some really good things in it to help our economy and our nation. But with every act that is passed in Congress, they have background information, notes that kind of explain how they're going to fund this new initiative. And Build Back Better proposes an approach that targets 401k plans. How do they do that? Well, it's introducing a new concept called excessive 401ks. If you have been fortunate enough to build up a sizable retirement account, it may be in the eyes of the government that you've done too well. you've actually set aside too much money. And Build Back Better is designed to set a threshold. Well, why is this a problem? Let me compare it to income tax. If you go back to income tax that was introduced back, I think it was 1913, 14, 15, sometime around the time of the First World War, income tax rates were like 2%, 3%. I mean, they were nothing. But what's happened over the years? Congress, in its desire to have more money to spend and more federal programs, has raised income tax levels. Today, nobody pays 2 or 3%. Most people are paying 10, 12, 15. Some people pay into the 30s because once a program is in, once a style of taxation is available, all it takes is Congress to tweak the numbers a little bit. And this Build Back Better had a very high threshold for 401ks. But once this model gets approved, my fear is they'll start saying, well, what is excessive? Is, 100,000 too much? Is 300,000 too much? Is 500,000 too much? And the government's at liberty to tweak these numbers. And if you're above that threshold, they force you to take half of the money out in a given year. Once again, who's the smiling face? It's Uncle Sam. So this is something we need to watch as we go forward. If you have a substantial 401k, trust me, the government is looking for it. And the last factor that's almost definitely going to affect younger people is that tax rates are going to go up. During the Trump administration, very low tax rates were put in, down in the 10 and 12% range for a lot of people. And those were very nice tax breaks, but those are scheduled to sunset in 2025. And we know that the government continues to have a skyrocketing national debt. We just can't get our spending and our revenue sources in line where we balance the budget. We're spending more than we make. Last year, for the first time in history, we exceeded the high water mark of debt to national output, gross national product, which was set in 1945 at the end of World War II. Our debt was 120% of our gross national product. Well, it went way down after that, but it's been creeping back up. And last year, for the first time since 1945, we set the all-time high record. We're now at around 135% gross national product to debt. What does this tell me? It tells me lawmakers are going to need more money, and I don't see tax rates going down. So what all of this points to is we need to look for other ways to build a safe, secure retirement plan, and taxes are going to play a critical role. You're going to pay probably more taxation. So let's talk about today's topics. First one is tax-free income from IRAs. If you have an IRA, I will show you how to convert it into a tax-free source of lifetime income. I want to touch on some creative strategies for doing tax-efficient Roth conversions. Why do we want to go from an IRA to a Roth? Well, Roths don't have any required minimum distributions, and anything a Roth IRA earns going forward is tax-free. So if there's an effective way, efficient way to get from an IRA or 401k to a Roth, we need to investigate that. And then the third major opportunity I'm going to talk about is another source of creating tax-free retirement income. So let's first take a look at IRAs. And we touched on this in some earlier webinars. So if you've tuned in, this may be a repeat, but they say repetition is the mother of learning. When we turn 72, if you have an IRA or a 401k, the government is giving you a tax deferral. We don't have to take money out. But when the year we turn 72, that opportunity ends, and we're forced to start taking required minimum distributions. Don't have an option on this. And the way it starts, they take the value on January 1st of the year you turn 72, and they go to a chart that the IRS offers, and it says, Bill, you're 72 this year, or 73, or 74. And next to each age, there's a divisor. And that divisor starts out around 27.4, I think, at age 72. And you divide that divisor into the amount of IRA dollars you had on January 1, and that tells you how much you have to take out. Translating that into a percentage, it starts out about 3.6%. But every year we get older, the percentage goes up, keeps going up. So let's take a look at a simple example. Got same amount of money on the right side of the table as on the left side. Doesn't matter, just know that it's the same amount on both sides. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to subdivide an IRA into two chunks. And on the right side, I've broken it into two buckets of IRA. They equal the amount on the left side. And one portion we're going to put into a very specific type of financial product. This is an insurance product. It's a tax-deferred annuity. So let's see what happens with our model. When I turn 72, what do I have to start doing? Taking money out. And how do most people approach required minimum distributions? They go to their CPA, they say, here's my statements for what I had on January 1. Usually the CPA does the calculation. Tara and I do it for our clients as well. And I go, okay, this year of that $100,000 IRA you had on January 1, you've got to take $3,600 out. No option to delay. You got to take it, whether you need it or don't. You got to take it out. So on the left side, this is how most people approach their IRAs. They start doing dipping. And as I mentioned, the percentage is going to go up over time. What do we do on the right side? Well, annuities today, modern annuities, have a feature that they didn't have 10, 12 years ago. It's called adding on a feature called an income rider. Well, how does this thing work? Well, it's a stream of lifetime income that comes out. If you're married, it covers both spouses. So it's a joint life payout. No matter whether mama's alive or dad's alive, it's paying out. And this income stream coming out exceeds the amount of the RMD amount. So it supports the same RMD distribution you've got to do on the left side. Left side, I'm dipping. Right side, I'm satisfying my RMD with this lifetime income payout. But what happens over time? Over time, the annual dipping's going up because what's happening? We're taking larger and larger percentages out every year. And if you look on the right side, the value in my IRA annuity, it's going down because that lifetime income stream is not fixed. It increases every year if market indexes are up, like the S&P 500. If it's up, the amount of income they pay me goes up every year. What if the markets are down this year? Well, then I just stay with what I had last year and wait for another future year where market indexes are up. And when they're up, I get my income stream continues to increase. So it's matching that RMD amount. Well, let's fast forward 10, 11 years into this cycle. On the left side, we're doing more and more and more annual dipping. On the right side, the income stream continues to increase. And at some point, maybe 5 years in, maybe 10 years in, 12 years in, I end up draining the annuity. Well, that may sound bad, but remember, it's a lifetime pension, a lifetime payout. And so that income stream is going to continue to go even if I drain the account down to zero. So in some ways, I kind of have my cake and eat it too. You see the IRA buckets on the far left and far right are about the same in size, but I also have this pension, this lifetime income stream that's coming in every month. That makes me feel good. I know I've got confidence that I've got money to spend because I can't outlive it. But that's not even the whole story. When that IRA annuity is almost empty, when it's gone down from whatever it was to start with down to just a couple of $1,000s, we go back to the company that offers it and say, hey, you remember I set that up some number of years ago as an IRA annuity? Yes. I'd like to convert my IRA annuity to a Roth. And remember, we talked about Roths. Whatever a Roth generates is tax-free. So not only is the income stream increasing as I get older, but even more importantly, the income flips from being taxable, which is what you get when you're taking money out of an IRA, to now all of a sudden I have a tax-free source of income. And that's kind of like giving yourself a raise at some point in the future. Most of us like getting a raise. So that's one strategy. So So let's now switch to a second strategy, what I call tax-free or tax-efficient Roth conversions. Some people go, "Hey, I want to get from an IRA over to a Roth IRA, but I want to do it efficiently. I know if I try to convert all of my IRA over to a Roth in a given year, it would put me in the highest tax bracket and I'd get eaten up by Uncle Sam. So how can we use the tax tables that are currently in effect to our benefit? And if you study the tax tables, we pay a different rate of tax based on different amounts of our income. So for single people, the first 10,000 they earn in a given year, they pay 10% tax on that. From 10 up to 41,000, they pay at 12%. And if they earn more than 41 or have to report more than 41,000 of taxable income, they move into the 22% bracket on money above income above 41,000. So what I notice on this chart is something very interesting. There's two bands where the step up or the rate of going up goes up dramatically. The increase from 12 to 22%, that's a big jump. And the second yellow line that I show, going from 24 up to 32%, that's a big jump. So the question is, how can we use this tax table to our advantage? And the question really depends on where I'm at in the tax table. And I have to complete one more part of this discussion. If I'm in the let's say my income is around somewhere north of 83,000, I also get something else that factors into how much tax I've got to pay. And that's every year I get a standard deduction. For married couples, the standard deduction is $25,900. For single people, it's $12,950 this year. And that's for folks under 65. Well, if I add that $12,950 to the income ceiling for 12%, which is $41,775, I find that if I have 54,000 of gross income as a single person, after I take my standard deduction, what is my income being taxed at? Either 10 or 12. None of it's being taxed at the 22% rate. Likewise, let's take a look at the other threshold at 24%. Let's say I'm a higher income individual. Well, if I'm married and my gross income is over 340, I still have that 25,900 standard deduction. What this chart tells me is if I'm a higher income person and my income is below 366,000, that all of my income is being taxed at either 10, 12, 22, or 24%. None of it's being taxed at the higher 32% rate. So once again, how do we use this knowledge to our advantage? Well, the question is, am I below one of those optimal gross income ranges? Let's say I'm single and I'm below that 12% bracket. Well, I have the opportunity, even if I'm younger than 72, I could start converting IRA dollars to Roth and set them up for tax-free growth. And by doing that, I'm converting my income. Let's go back here to the chart we just looked at. Let's say I'm married and my income is under 366,000. Let's say I make 340. Well, I have an opportunity that I could convert 24,000 of or 26,000 of income at the 24% rate. Why might I want to do that? Because if tax rates go up in the future, getting money into a Roth format now would be advantageous. Now, one of the things Tara and I've learned in doing these Roth conversions, this is very important. If you can do a Roth conversion, you want to pay the tax obligation using other after-tax funds. What do I mean by that? Let's say I want to convert 40,000 of IRA dollars over to Roth. And let's say I'm in, I'll pick the 20% bracket, 40,000. That would be 20 times 40. That tells me how much income I can convert. But I have a choice. I can pay the tax obligation out of my Roth, out of my IRA, So my 40 is no longer worth 40 when it gets to the Roth. It's now reduced by the taxes I took out. Or, this is where it gets interesting, if I can pay the tax obligation out of other after-tax savings I have, now the full 40,000 I'm converting from IRA to Roth goes into my Roth account. And there, if you run the numbers, running an IRA versus a Roth, you'll find out that Roths exceed the performance of an IRA if you can pay the taxes using other after-tax money, other savings you have. If this makes sense, contact us. We'll show you how this works. And remember, you can begin converting IRA dollars before tax rates rise and before you turn 72. You're not forced to let the money sit there and grow. And then when you turn 72, you're forced to take it out. And oh my gosh, by then they've raised taxes. So now I'm getting the double hammer. So Tara and I show our clients how to do these tax efficient Roth conversions. And Tara mentioned we have software that does 30-year retirement plans. We can show you the impact of doing a tax efficient Roth conversion and how it'll increase or improve your financial outcome. You'll have more money when you turn 80, 90 than you would if you haven't done this. We can show you how this works. So give us a call and we'll show you. The last topic I want to talk about. So we talked about how we get money out of our IRA and eventually convert it to tax-free. We talked about tax-efficient Roth conversions. This is the third strategy that we use. And this one is an incredible opportunity for younger people. Sometimes when people come in here, they're younger, I go, hey, let's define the perfect investment to fund your retirement. And they go, okay, well, let's talk about it. And so first they go, well, I want to be able to contribute without having government imposed income limits. You know, if you're trying to put money in a Roth IRA today, many companies don't offer Roth IRA, Roth 401ks. So you don't have that opportunity. And if your income's above a certain amount, you can't get money into the Roth. So it's kind of like, I want to get there, but I can't because my income is too high. So whatever this ideal or perfect investment vehicle is, we don't want to have government imposed limits. We want the funds obviously to grow tax deferred. We don't want to get taxed every year like you do on a brokerage account or on CDs where you get the 1099 at the end of the year. You have to report income. We don't want to do that. We want the funds to increase nicely, but we also want them to be safe. So let's say we find a product where you have 8% upside. The market's up 6, you get 6. Market's up 8, you get 8. Market's up 10%, you only get 8.25. What happens if the markets are down this year? You don't participate. So we get upside potential, but downside protection. That's important because nobody wants to watch their savings that have grown nicely get contracted when the markets contract. And we're in a very volatile period. The Fed is raising interest rates. No one knows what's going to happen. I know that bonds are going to get hammered because as interest rates go up, bonds go down. Nobody knows what's going to happen to the stock market, but I'm concerned. The next item is very important. Whatever we earn inside this investment, we want to be able to take it out tax-free. Always tax-free, a source of tax-free money. And we don't want rules forcing distributions. So if I don't need the money, I want to just leave my money in there and let it grow. With IRAs, we have to start taking money out at 72. I'd like to let my money compound and grow, and I get to decide when I take it out. And then at death, if there's money still in this investment, I may have been taking it out to live on, and all those withdrawals are tax-free. But after death, whatever's left in the product goes to my heirs, and it's tax-free. So to me, this is the ideal perfect investment vehicle for younger people. And so what is the perfect investment? I'm going to tell you now, but let me explain how it fits. The perfect investment vehicle is a product that's been around for hundreds of years. It's life insurance, but that's not why we get it. We don't get it for the death benefit. I mean, there is a death benefit. So if you get a policy and you have an unfortunate early demise, there's tax-free money that's going to go to your heirs. But the reason we get life insurance, there are products where you can contribute excess cash. and the limits are much more liberal than on Roth IRAs. So you can get more money into an insurance policy. The money that you put in grows tax deferred. So it's not being taxed while it's in there. And as I mentioned, we have products that offer very nice growth, 8% up, no down. That's a nice way to expand the value of your retirement savings. When you start taking withdrawals, the money's all tax free. So we can build a model where we grow the money and then we plan ahead and go at 65, at 70, whenever I'm going to start taking out X dollars. And all of those withdrawals are tax free. And then if I die and there's still money in the policy, obviously that's going to go tax free to my heirs. So let's see how this fits, or let's look at a real life example. And what I want to compare is a gentleman that came to see us who was 45 years old, and he said, I'm concerned about future taxes. What have you got for me? And I said, we'll explore two options. You could continue to contribute to your 401k, or you could put money into a life insurance policy. And so we looked at that. And here's kind of what we came up with. Our client's name was Tom. He was 45. He's married. He's in good health. And he makes about $100,000 a year. Between he and his wife, they're up in the 22% tax bracket. And so we project that he's going to be paying 22% taxes while he's working, and then it'll drop down when he goes into retirement to 12%. In his saving choices, he has a 401k at work, and his employer matches 6%, up to 6% of the contributions. That's one option. The second option was fund a life policy and put in an equivalent amount of money. And his goal was retirement at age 65 with maximum income. So scenario one, I said, well, let's say, Tom, you're going to contribute $10,000 a year into a life policy. This is money that you've already paid taxes on. So it's probably starts out at 12 or 13,000 a year. You pay your taxes, and now you have 10,000 a year to put in. I assume Tom's going to fund it for 20 years. So 10 times 10,000 times 20 years, 200,000 is in his life insurance policy. I assume his policy is going to grow at 6.71%. How did I get that? Well, I went back and looked at how products that have an upside potential of 8%, no downside, and we added in a 1% asset fee inside the life insurance policy. And it translates into a 6.71 compound rate of growth. Well, Tom's other option, remember, he could contribute to his 401k. And if he's putting money in the 401k, he's putting in more every year because that's all pre-tax. Uncle Sam hasn't gotten to take a chunk out. And remember, I mentioned that Tom's company matches 6%. So of the $12,000 he's putting in, the company's matching $6,000 a year. So with the life insurance, we're only putting $200 in. Tom's 401k, we're putting in $376,000 over a 20-year period. And I assume the 401k is going to grow at 4.48%, less a 1% annual fee. Where did I come up with that number? Well, that's what the rate of return was from 2000 to 2020. That's what the market's averaged. So I'm just using historical data. Could be higher, could be lower. So the question is, if I run these two side by side, how do they perform? Well, with the life insurance at age 65, Tom's goal was he wanted to take out a little over 40,000, and we built in a plan where he's going to take 46,550 out of that life insurance policy every year, and he's going to do it for 20 years. So from age 65 to age 85, he's taken out 931,200 of tax-free income. The policy still has a $231,000 death benefit. So what's the total payout for Tom and his heirs? A little over 1 million, 1.162 million. Remember, that's all tax-free money. That's the advantage of life insurance. Well, how does that compare to the 401k? Let's take a look. With the 401k, Tom, to get that same 46,550, Tom has to withdraw 52,136 of pre-tax money to get the 46,550 $550. So he's taking out more money every year. And when we run the model, the 401k has grown, but remember there's good years and bad years. It hasn't grown as well as the life policy. And by age 79, Tom's 401k has zeroed out. The total lifetime payout, $688,000. Compare that to the number up on top with life insurance, 1.162. What's the difference? It's $473,000 of additional tax-free income. That's a big difference. Tara and I show our younger clients how to put this type of product to work for them so that they'll have more money to spend. And it's in a product where Uncle Sam can't go in and say, well, hey, now we need to tax that life insurance. Life insurance is a contract between a company and an individual, whereas a 401k is a model designed by government bureaucrats. They can always go in and tinker with the tax obligations on a 401k, but it's much harder to go in and say, oh, wait a second, the contract that was issued 10, 20 years ago by some life insurance company, now we want to go in and modify the contract? That isn't going to happen. So to me, life insurance is a safer way to build tax-free income where it's not at risk of being hammered by Uncle Sam in the future when he needs more pennies, more revenue to cover the shortfall of our government spending. So we talked about three strategies here. First one is how to convert a portion of your IRA dollars, 401k dollars, into a stream of tax-free income that continues to grow the rest of your life. That's powerful. Second, we talked about ways to gradually tax efficiently convert IRA or 401k dollars over into Roth dollars. And as we talked, those are then tax-free. Whatever they grow into, they keep the tax man away from your door. The third one particularly fits younger folks, 50s, 40s. Those folks can fund life insurance and create just an unbelievable stream of tax-free income in retirement. So with that, I guess the question is, it's not can you retire if you're under 60, but you want to start doing planning today. And this is where Tara and I help out. Our consultations are free. We're happy to meet with you. If you want us to build a 30-year retirement plan, we charge a one-time fee. It's very modest. It's $500. But that plan, once you build a baseline scenario and says, here's your investments, here's your income sources, here's your expenses as we project into retirement, we factor it for inflation, we plan that you'll have to pay some taxes, we build that all in, and it pinpoints where you'll be. And that's when Tara and I can get very creative. We go, what if you work 2 years longer? What if you downsize your McMansion down to something smaller, free up capital? What if you create other guaranteed income in retirement? What if you make creative Social Security claiming strategies and increase your lifetime payout? So once we've got that baseline scenario, we start building alternate scenarios. And our goal is increase the bottom line end number. If the original model shows, hey, with spending and taxes and everything, you're going to run out of money at 92 or 86. Our goal is push that red line to beyond 100. We want all of our clients to have money so they feel confident in retirement that they can spend and leave a legacy for their kids. Tara and I do this. We show people how to do it. We charge $500 one time to build the model, and then our clients come back annually and go, Bill, one of my kids moved back home. That's going to up our expenses. Okay, let's factor that into the model and see what it does. Or I've decided to get a part-time job. I'm retired, but I can use my skills and I earn a modest amount of additional income. We factor that in. All of these things play into where you're going to be 10, 20, 30 years down the road, and we can help you do it. And so with that, Tara, do we have any questions today?
Let me take a look. I think there was one question. Yeah, one question is, how old or young do you need to be to start doing the life insurance?
That's a good question. Because when you get life insurance, there's two real components in there. There's the asset growth component. You want to be able to put in excess cash, but there's also the cost of the life insurance policy. And as we get older, the life insurance portion, the cost goes up. So this is a model, or this is a tool that's better suited for people in their 40s or 50s. People in their early 60s could still do it. But I'm 73. If I went to get a life policy, the cost of life insurance would be higher proportionate. And so I wouldn't have as much money of excess cash growing for me. So that's a great question. I always recommend, younger people look at life insurance, 40s and 50s, early 60s. And then once we get beyond that, Tara and I have other tools like converting an IRA into tax-free Roth income in the future, or like doing tax efficient Roth conversions. We got lots of tools, and we just, it's not one size fits all. We look for the solution that best fits your needs.
All right, great. Well, I think that's it for today. Remember, we'll send out a thank you email that'll have the webinar recording on it so you can re-listen to it or pass it to a friend. And then in about 24 to 48 hours, we'll have it up on our website to review. Also, we'll send you a free copy of More Money for Retirement in PDF form. But if you'd like a hard copy of the book, please just respond to that email. We're happy to mail you out one for free. So thank you so much for joining us today, and we look forward to seeing you next week.
Thanks, Tara.
Have a great day.